Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class today. We're having quite a turnout here, and I appreciate everyone joining or choosing to join in our class. Today's webinar is Hurricane Preparedness with a slant on while under construction. Can't believe it, but there were 23 predicted hurricanes this year, and we've already had a couple that have been very impactful to the United States. You will hear about water restoration and emergency response from an expert today, Erin Nickerson. She's been in the industry for many years. First, let's talk about some housekeeping. As you probably have realized, you are on mute, but put your questions, please, in the Q&A section. And in the chat section, just put comments, okay? So Q&A is for questions, chat box is for just comments, okay? CAMS, I want you to please allow 3 to 4 weeks for your 1 hour credit. It's either going to be towards your OPP or your ELE CEU that you will be missing, and that will be filled in by the DVPR. They are a little bit behind, but they promise to have all the credits posted before license renewal on September 30th. I do want to thank all the board members in the camps for taking time out of your day to join in and choosing our webinar. I want to commend you for your continuing education in the industry, which is going to continue to make you a leader. What I want to do is also begin by introducing all the sponsors. They're going to tell a little bit about themselves and their company, and they are very good resources, and please support them where you can. Take a bid. If you haven't heard of them, it might be a good time to see where your money might be budgeted better. So thank you, sponsors, while I'm thinking of it, and let's get started. First, I want to do the introductions of the Wind Beneath My Wings, starting with Katie Bassford. She is the National Sales Director for Vinteum Software. Katie, you want to say a few words about yourself and what does Vinteum do?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Peggy. As Peggy mentioned, I am the National Account Director, so I work with clients all across the US, but we do have a primary focus in Florida. We support Neighgbrs, which is an HOA and condo management software. So Neighgbrs can help with overall communication and transparency in your community association. We also help with compliance with the upcoming Florida website laws, and we have lots of tools for hurricane preparedness, things like emergency communication tools. So if you are interested, I would love to chat, love to get a live demo scheduled. Please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Now, I really couldn't do this without Beatrice from Vinteum. She is the main IT contact for me and support. She's waving at you. Thank you, Bea, for everything you do. Next, I want to introduce our moderator for today. We have Ben Friedman. He's the president of City Quiet. Ben, tell us about yourself and what your company does.
Thank you, Peggy. My name is Ben Friedman. I am the president and owner of City Quiet Windows and Doors. Here at City Quiet, we provide turnkey white glove installation for all window, storefront, door, and railing projects. I'm happy to be the moderator once again. Two of my good friends are going to give the presentation today, Nikki from Empire Works and Erin from URI. So enjoy today's presentation, and thanks for having me.
Great, thanks, Ben, once again. Next, I want to introduce Rhonda Ugoski. She is a senior rep at Rosenbaum PLLC, longtime contact for me and friend. Rhonda, tell us about yourself and the firm. What does Rosenbaum do for condos?
Oh, thank you, Peggy. Hi, I'm Rhonda with Rosenbaum Law. We are a full-service law firm with a primary focus on community association representation. I personally handle collections, foreclosures, real estate. I've been with Mr. Rosenbaum for over 37 years, and I'm very good at what I do. So if you're looking for new counsel, you have a collection issue, you want a second opinion, give us a call. You will not be disappointed. But remember, Rhonda, Rosenbaum Law.
Very good. All right. Brings back memories. Next, I want to introduce Gil Schauman. He's with Altieri Insurance Consultants, and he is a consultant. Gil, welcome back, and tell us about yourself and what does the company do?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Gil Schauman. I'm a public adjuster with Altieri Insurance Consultants. As a public adjusting firm, we are licensed through the state of Florida to represent insurance policy holders. So we would represent the condominium association, any individual unit owners through the insurance claim process and make sure that they get paid correctly. So they're able to pay all their vendors, rebuild the property without having to take out costly bridge loans, charging costly assessments, and rebuild their property in a suitable time frame and get their tenants back in as quickly as possible. We also handle your day-to-day stuff, so pipe breaks, fires. We do a lot of hurricane preparedness. We'll review insurance policies, make sure there's no gaps in coverage, so you're prepared for whatever may affect your property.
Awesome. That's a lot. All right. Next, I want to introduce Bruce Wingfield. He's a regional sales manager for MIS. It's a Salas O'Brien company. Bruce, tell us about yourself and what do you do?
Good morning, everyone. We are the largest company.
Lost you. Bruce, did you hit the mute? You're breaking up.
Back on, Peggy.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was having connection issues. Good old internet. So we're the largest company for testing windows after a storm event. The biggest misconception that we have that windows are not damaged. This is what everybody says. Well, my window's an impact resistant window. But at our lab in Miami-Dade, we do the Miami-Dade missile test. Our lab's an AMA accredited lab. This involves shooting a 2x4 at the glass. It doesn't hit the framing members at all. And we're using an air cannon, and that 2x4 is shot at only 35 miles per hour. So there's a big misconception that my windows were hurricane resistant, and so I don't have nothing to worry about. Well, the glass breaks, but the 2x4 does not pass through opening. That's the only requirement. So it's got nothing to do with wind, pressure, which at a Cat 1 would damage your seals, gaskets, and joineries. And the number one thing you can do to be ready for hurricanes is to be proactive with maintenance. Gil can tell you with Altieri that carriers will deny claim based upon pre-existing conditions. To prove your building did not have deferred maintenance items, you should video everything. And one last thing, if your association has passed a milestone study for Florida law, don't start the concrete and stucco repairs until you have moisture intrusion solutions, find your water intrusion leaks. One condo passed the milestone and was given a budget of $450,000 for repair. We found 61 leaks, including 3 on their brand new roof. So unless you want to continue to do $450,000 worth of repairs, the concrete and stucco is damaged by water intrusion. So find your water intrusion issues.
Okay, thank you for that. Very good. I think a lot of you vendors could work together on window and issues like that. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Baum. He's the founder and the CEO of COA Solutions of Florida. He works with commercial properties and all condominiums and property and casualty insurance specialists as well. So Daniel, tell us about what you do. You do some unique things that the other companies don't in your sector, and a little bit more about your company.
Sure. Thank you, Peggy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Baum, as Peggy mentioned. My firm is called COA Solutions of Florida. And very simply, I am passionate about helping condominium communities find savings on their commercial property and casualty insurance. I don't have to tell anyone on this webinar how difficult that has been in the last few years and how the insurance market has really, the premiums that we're paying has really exploded our budgets and created a lot of stress in our communities. And I feel as an agent, it's my responsibility to your community to help you and look for ways to save money not just to send you a renewal and tell you the price went up. So I do this by being very proactive. I ask all of my communities, new and existing, to send me documentation at least 90 days, if possible, in advance of either renewal or your policy expiring. We look at all of your documentation, including wind mitigation reports, your recent appraisals, and anything and everything, roof condition issues, and we'll give you guidance to at least offer you recommendations on how to reduce that insurance premium. For some communities, it can be dramatic. This year, just recently in West Palm Beach, I helped the community go from $950,000 in premium down to $650,000 in premium. It's one of the most amazing situations and stories that I won't share with you right now, but it was obviously a dramatic savings. Or it could be simply a few $1,000s in savings. But for all of us right now, wherever we can find savings is important. I offer a free review of your policies. There's a bit of a myth out there in the industry that you have to sign letters for a broker to take a look at your current policies in order to review them and tell you about your coverage. That couldn't be further from the truth. There's nothing to sign. With a few documents, I can review your policies and tell you in a short period of time whether or not there is a market out there and is savings for you. And I really try very hard to work with my communities, and I live in a community as well, so I feel the effect. That's what I do. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Very good. So if anyone hasn't did a evaluation of other companies, I'd recommend Daniel highly. Next, I want to mention the next sponsor is Hafer Company. They're a full-service CPA company specializing in audits. I haven't heard from them today, so I'm not sure why representatives aren't on, but Nicole Pendergrass is the partner and the operations manager, and the other contact is Mark Landez, and he's an audit principal. So they will be on the sponsor sheet that I send out, and their contact information if you'd like to reach out to them. They have 4 offices around the state now, and they're readily available, very hardworking, very diligent, and we'll get back to you within, I'm sure, a couple of hours. So if you need anything in that area, please reach out to Mark and Nicole. Next, I want to introduce the beautiful Heidi Larson. She is a business development executive at Florida Paints. Heidi, tell us about your company and yourself.
Thank you so much, Peggy, and thank you for having us on today. We're a paint manufacturing company local to Florida, so we work with you guys on your specifications for repaints. We work with your contractor, or we can recommend 3 contractors for the actual budget bidding and or the repaint bid. We can do color renderings, color matches, all that fun stuff. So anything that requires coatings, roof coatings, floor coatings, wall coatings, interior and exterior, door coatings, all of that fun stuff. We have a large range of material that we can recommend. We'll work with you guys from the beginning to the end. We work with Vice Painting a lot. Empire Works is on here. We do a lot of construction defect work with them. And we'll just help you get through the pain points of paint, because it is the last thing thought of, but the first thing blamed. We cannot stop hurricanes from taking down your building. We cannot do anything like that, but we can help you work through the process of picking colors, getting your warranties, making sure that there's on-site reporting for your contractors and your painting contractors for your warranties to be valid. That's something that we do that a lot of people don't do. Our on-site is GPS and time and date stamped. So those reports can be sent to you just to let you know that the actual manufacturer who is warranting the paint will be out there on site making sure that it's being put on thick enough, that it's prepped right, and all of those fun things. So if you have any questions, reach out, and thank you, Peggy, again for having us.
Great smile, by the way. Okay, Maddie, so glad you're here with us. We have the Director of Marketing Business Strategy at Vice Painting, Maddie Osmond. Maddie, please tell us about yourself, what you do, and what does your company do?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Peggy, so much for having us today. So we are a painting contractor. So we specialize in exterior repaints for townhomes, condos, HOAs in the Central Florida area. So we service Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete on the West Coast. We service all the Central Florida, Orlando area, North and South Orlando, and then we go all the way over to the East Coast with Cocoa Beach and Melbourne and Daytona. So anything that you need as far as repaint bids, we are here for you. We also offer weatherproofing, waterproofing services for your buildings. We do pressure washing. We do community maintenance, so gutter cleaning, roof cleaning. We even offer concrete repair. So we do a lot of concrete grinds and replacements in communities with sidewalks and trip hazards. So anything that we can do for you and your communities, we'd be happy to help you. So thank you so much for being here today. And thank you again, Peggy.
You're certainly welcome. Okay, and just honorable mention, because I started with Gene Ponder. He's the Vice President of Vice Painting, and I want to say thank you to him always. Okay, next I want to introduce Bob Aleka. He's the Vice President at Faster.io. Bob, tell us about yourself and what does your company do, because you're fairly new.
Well, good morning all. Thanks, Peggy. We provide TV, internet, and or phone through a fiber optic system to HOAs and condominiums. Our TV service is streaming. You can take it with you, change your address. Your locals will follow you. Our fiber optic infrastructure allows for unlimited amount of bandwidth. What makes us totally different from all the other providers that are out there today is that we've been in business for over 20 years as a data center. We provide data center to government entities, financial institutions, insurance, healthcare, enterprise, retailers, media and entertainment companies, and the most important thing is to other telecommunication companies. So yes, that's correct. Other companies come to us, so we manage their network, we manage their back-end systems, and we build their systems. And now we're getting in front of the residential market and building it and doing it ourselves. So if you are 2 years or less with your agreement, please give me a call. We'd love to come out and talk to you and show you what we do differently. Also, we'd like to give you a tour of our facility. Our facility is in Deerfield Beach. We provide services all over the state. I think it would be a very interesting and educational situation for you to come and see what a data center looks like and how everything comes back to the data center. And we do not use a third-party infrastructure or fiber to service your community. So I will put my information in the chat and look forward to getting with you. Again, have the good show and thank you, Peggy.
You're welcome. Okay, next I want to introduce Brooke Cavender. She is the business development representative for Southwest Elevators. Brooke, tell us about yourself and the company.
Thank you, Peggy. My name is Brooke Cavender. I'm with Southwest Elevator, which is a family-owned and operated union elevator company. I'm actually the 4th generation stepping in, so we've been around for quite some time. We specialize in elevator maintenance, repair, and modernization upgrades. So really anything that your elevator would need, we can do. There's a ton of code upgrades that Florida just adopted. So if you have any questions or are not aware of those, I would love to be a resource for you, and I will drop my contact information in the chat box below. Thank you.
Outstanding. That's awesome. Okay, next I want to introduce part of the panel, but I wanted to make sure that they were recognized as a separate vendor. But from Empire Works Construction today, we have Nikki Smith. She's a business development for South Florida, and George Rodriguez, account executive. Nikki, why don't you go first, introduce yourself, tell us what you do for the company.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki Smith. As Peggy said, I represent the South Florida team, and George here is our account executive for the South Florida market. So Empire Works, we are a full service GC. We specialize in concrete restoration, waterproofing, deck work, paving, anything on the exterior envelope. And we also hold your hand throughout the construction defect process as well. George, did you want to step in and say a little bit about yourself and what you do here for the company?
I think you did a great job, Nikki. As you said, we're a full service GC. We're here to hold your hand, guide you, and be an extreme resource for you guys, not only are we experts in construction, but between Nikki and I, we also have 15 years combined property management experience where we can help you guys in anything you may need. So please don't look at us as just a construction consultant or a full service GC, but also as a resource to help you guys out.
Okay. Oh, I forgot. We also have a gift for all of the property managers that are on the webinar today. We want to give you a complimentary observation report for your building. So please reach out to myself or George. I'll put our contact information in. Well, better yet, I think Peggy sends out the contact information. We will be more than happy to get that scheduled for you. What you get is we come out and we take anywhere from 150 to 200 pictures of your property, and we put together like a report card for your building. So I advise that you use that to document where you're standing currently. You can use it in your weekly reports. You can use it to put together a capital improvement project plan for your building. There's so many different ways that you can use this report. So like George says, we hold your hand throughout the whole process. We are your resource. It takes nothing for us to make an introduction to you, to someone like Ben or an owner's rep or an engineer. They answer us first because we work with them on a daily basis. So an intro from me or George goes a long way. So please keep that in mind.
That's awesome. Okay, great. If you don't do that, I don't know why, if it's free. Okay, so lastly, let me just mention that I do work part-time for Beach and Patio Outdoor Living. It is a full source resource for patio deck furniture. We also make our cushions in-house, and just call me for an appointment. I'd be glad to walk your patio with you and put together a nice presentation design for your community and the size of your community as well. So we also do repairs, and would be glad to meet as soon as this afternoon. Okay, with that, I want to introduce our guest speaker. Her name is Erin Nickerson. She is the Director of Sales at URI, and she has decided to make this a panel and spice it up a little bit. So on her panel today is also going to be the representatives from Empire Works, which is Nikki. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know what's going on. Oh my goodness. What's my security for my house? Ah. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, she wanted to spice it up with a panel and do a combination presentation of not just restoration, but also construction. And so therefore with Nikki and George, we've got project management, and you can still put your questions in the Q&A box. What they don't get to, if they don't, I will also include to them, and they can answer you directly. So also, if you would put in your full name, not just Erin or not just Nikki or George, and we can track you down on the sheet that we receive following the class. With that, I want to turn it over to Erin. You've been in the business a long time, Erin. Please tell us about yourself, your journey, where you are today, and what your company does at this point.
Sure. Thank you, Peggy. And thank you for everyone being on this webinar today. My name is Erin Nickerson with Unlimited Restoration. I am the Director of Sales for the company. I've been in the industry almost 10 years now. It's kind of crazy to think about how long we've all probably been a part of this crazy journey of condo HOA land. But my company, URI, is a licensed general contractor that specializes in water, fire, mold, leaks, dead bodies, all the things that you never want to happen to your property. We help and assist plan for those things, reduce the frequency of loss, and having a plan for when it does happen for your property. And we perform those services as well. I figured today everybody probably was sick of taking hurricane classes, so I wanted to spice it up a little bit. And really one of the biggest things that I see, especially in condo high-rise, especially it could be a mid-rise, a co-op, or a large building on the beach, is a lack of preparedness when we are in the middle of a construction project during the summer, because the summer months are our construction season, and that's when most of our work is being performed. There's not a plan in place or an adequate plan in place by a lot of contractors. So I invited my expert, Nikki, who has I don't even know how many years in property management prior to being at Empire Works to answer a lot of these questions that I normally get. I could tell you horror stories about buildings that I've had to dry out 52 units because there's no weather wall that's been installed and a microburst went over Palm Beach Island. So we were going to go through that today and really dive in deep. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to add them into the Q&A. We'll answer them as we go. And Ben will be helping us moderate as well. So I'm going to jump in, share my screen with you guys. This is an accredited class. I'm about a week out right now with the DBPR and filing all those course credits, but please feel free to email me if you don't see it within 5 to 7 business days. And we will jump right in. Nikki, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So, class we're going to be teaching today. Some major points that we're going to cover, why we're here today, the effects of hurricanes, contingency planning, and that's really what is your plan today prior to the storm arriving as it concerns your projects that are currently going on and just in general. What can you do today to better plan? Nikki and I are going to do a deep dive into that on what should be in your contracts, what qualifies a good contractor for your property for these large scale events. Exterior preparedness versus interior preparedness on the project management side, and returning to your property after a storm, and that'll involve mitigation and potentially reconstruction. So you guys are all here on this call today because you have some sort of role where you're involved in actively managing and maintaining the property or the site that you're at. And it's really my goal by the end of this presentation for you to have a better understanding on preparation. But more importantly, you guys are really the ones that get no credit when everything is going smoothly and right, but you sure get the credit when things are going wrong. So our goal is really to help prevent those things from going wrong. And if they do go wrong, what is our plan to save the property? So I am going to tell you a little story. We all have this board member at our property. This is Dorothy, and Dorothy is still living on Fort Myers Beach, and Dorothy stayed on the property during the storm. This is Dorothy's unit. Dorothy's a prepper, and he put a camera on the 4th floor of this condo building. And in Fort Myers Beach, that's technically the 5th floor of the building. So you're talking average ceiling height is 10 to 12 foot. We'll go with 10, right? So you're about 50 feet up in the air, and this is the storm surge that hit Fort Myers Beach. I made a time lapse out of it, so you didn't see this for 10 hours going by, but it's incredible to me that a board member, somebody that's in charge of managing a property, is staying on site with this type of devastation that is rolling through the property. And like we talked about, everybody's got somebody that's going to stay in the building, whether you tell them that it's a mandatory evacuation or not. But this is the exterior of the building taking on this much water. Imagine if they had a massive construction project going on. Maybe they were doing a concrete repair. Maybe they're doing roof replacement. Maybe they're working on their milestone inspection. This could cause a total loss for this building if any of those projects were going on and they were not prepared with their contractor of choice. You can also Google Fort Myers board member on YouTube, and you can see Dorothy being airlifted from this building. That happened later.
Wow, this is
So enough of
intense.
my scare tactics for you.
I think you did it for me, Erin.
Yeah, what's amazing about this is that as the water recedes going out, totally different beach. Buildings are gone, homes are gone, and what it left behind was even more disgusting. So enough with my scare tactics, Nikki. Let's talk about Florida.
Erin, I have to interject here for a minute.
Mhm.
So, we were both able to contribute to the build back of the West Coast, which, is sad, but fortunate for us, of course, to be able to give back. Can you explain a little bit about the difference between a wind event and kind of a water event? Because, a lot of the stuff that we got involved in, and I know you guys got involved in, and Nikki as well, really related to the amount of water and the storm surge that there was, and not so much how windy or how much, wind speed per se it was. Yes, it was a Category 5 storm that caused a lot of damage, but they really weren't expecting this storm surge per se. They were expecting these high winds that were going to throw stuff around everywhere. But really what the damage was that water. So can you go into, that a little bit, and how people might forget that, the ocean's a powerful thing, and the water itself being such a big issue, not as much as the wind in this particular hurricane.
Absolutely. So when we, in the restoration insurance world, Ben's world, Nikki's world, when we think about how a storm affects a property, there's two sides of the coin. Wind-driven rain and floodwater. And that really is important for you to understand as a board member and a property manager, because it's how you're covered under your insurance policy. Floodwater is classified as rising groundwater, and you have to have a flood policy in order to have coverage for this type of event. And what was really sad to see on Fort Myers Beach is because there was so much flooding, it went miles and miles inland. And a lot of the properties that were on the opposite side of the intercoastal, they may not have been in a flood zone and did not have flood insurance, were not covered for the devastation that this caused. And geographically, how Fort Myers Beach is constructed and a lot of the West Coast is, we also have them here. We have a lot of waterways. We have water management systems like Lake Worth, right? And the water came in and it receded into these water systems, and then it had to come back out. So Fort Myers Beach and a lot of the West Coast, it actually got flooded twice, and we had to evacuate from the beach. I was the first restoration contractor on the beach after the storm, and we went in there and started initially mitigating the fire departments, the police departments, and had to re-evacuate because the water came back out and flooded the beach again. So that's really the floodwater side. The wind side of it is the wind-driven rain, potential debris that can break windows and doors, lift roofs. That's a separate coverage, and that's under your wind policy. It's important to understand the two different coverages, because the money that the insurance company will give you after the storm is based on the coverages of those two separate policies. I always get asked after a storm, well, FEMA will cover me for flood. You never want to rely on a government entity to put you back together post-storm. The average claims that I saw for my condominium buildings that relied on FEMA for flood coverage was inadequate, to say the least. It was not enough money for them to rebuild. So that led to costly assessments for the associations, and a lot of people on the West Coast were forced to sell. And I'm dealing with dissolution of condominiums all over the place because they just didn't have the money or the insurance coverages to recuperate after the storm. So Florida was actually impacted by 7 out of the most 10 costly hurricanes of all time. And until Hurricane Ian hit the west coast of Florida, we really haven't had a whole lot that has hit the highly densely populated areas like Tampa, Orlando, the Tri-County where we live down here. And it really lulls people into a false sense of security. We've had I saw some crazy statistic that was 329,000 people move from out of state to the state of Florida in 2020. And that number has only grown over the last 4 years. So you have all these people moving here that have no idea about the effects of a storm and what that actually can entail to a property. So effects of the storm are really important that we communicate these to our managers. I'm going to run through this portion fairly quickly so we can get down to the nitty-gritty of why we're here and how to really prepare for those things. So a wind event, and like Ben spoke about, and this is actually how we categorize all of our hurricanes, is by the speed in the miles per hour. A tropical depression, 38 miles. You guys can read the screen and see all of this here. And what I really want you guys to take away from this is the people that are managing your properties should be out of the buildings once wind speed has reached 35 miles an hour. After that, it is not safe for them to be out on the roads driving around or even trying to prep their homes. So that's part of the preparation plan, is planning when the tropical depression is scheduled to hit our coast or wherever we are. Everybody needs to be off property and hunkered down in their own homes. The second event that Ben spoke about is the storm surge. Storm surge is actually the extra water that's on top of the normal tide. So what we saw with Hurricane Ian on Fort Myers Beach and the whole West Coast is that they had storm surge. It was also a supermoon and a king tide, which is why you had that excessive 50+ foot of storm surge that hit the coast of Fort Myers Beach. And really, the highest loss of life for any hurricane that happens is the storm surge. And when we talk about preparing our properties for storm, it is really to prevent loss of life. It is not to it is to protect the property as well. But our number one concern is always making sure that we're protecting ourselves and human life. The most costly hurricane of all time prior to Ian was Hurricane Katrina, and this presentation was made in January. The $113 billion in damages has over doubled, and we'll continue to see that rise. But 152 people died during Hurricane Ian that we can attribute that to. One other thing that we don't talk about enough when it comes to hurricanes is the spinoff of tornadoes. And we saw Hurricane Ian projectile tornadoes to Delray Beach, to the center of Florida, and to Volusia County in particular, and it devastated communities. So, Nikki, this is where we want to start. And I want to talk about things that the building maintains versus individual unit owners, and really why it's so important to understand the difference between the two. Do you want to jump in?
Sure. So first off, I'm sure most of you know that documentation is key in all aspects of property management, and making sure that your residents know what they are responsible for. And that can very well vary based on your condo docs as to the areas that are covered. Far as, let's even talk about the balconies, their balconies, their windows, those sorts of things, their water systems and their bathrooms. I believe George can attest to exactly how that works when it comes to from the property management side on the high-rise side of things.
So definitely you guys want to get up on the roof, make sure all your drains are jetted, make sure they're, clog free. There's no debris up there that's going to clog up the drains. You want to, like Nikki said, you want to take a quick video of your roof right after you do that to show that it's in great condition. If you have any cracks that are visual, get your chief engineer to get some heavy duty caulking and make sure he seals those cracks to try and avoid any, water intrusion. Just going off of the list here, your common area HVAC, make sure that that's tied into your emergency generator. The last thing you want is for the people that stay behind, the people that can't really leave, for them to not have anywhere to run to get some cool air and be able to breathe. Make sure you have water, make sure you have some snacks for those residents that have to stay behind. Anything you could do to make their lives easier is going to give you an A+ rating, and people are going to have great things to say about you. As far as entrances, if you have a guard gate, make sure you pull those gates off so that the wind doesn't destroy them. I know it's difficult to pull those gates off. You don't want people coming into your property. But at the same time, as soon as the wind is done, you could put that gate right back and you don't have to worry about calling a company to come and replace it. Your
Because
windows,
like you
if you
said
don't,
with that, George, you will tear up your motor if you do not tie those gates back. And that's a super costly expense. I know from experience from when I was a property manager. And that was one of the biggest things I had to plead to my board, that we cannot wait for the storm to hit to do these things. These are things that need to be done prior to that. And if I could add, and if I could take a step back and really talk about the importance of having a hurricane binder, something that you update every single hurricane system. I'm sorry, every hurricane season, right? So this is something that I like to call your Bible, right? It should be a step-by-step on how all of your HVAC systems, all of your plumbing, how to turn them off, how to turn them on, what to do in an emergency. I'm talking about with pictures and everything. It is something that you really need to dedicate your time to. your evacuation plan, everything should be in this binder. Your front desk should be well aware of this. You should schedule training with them and your chief engineer. Actually, everybody on property that works for you should be well versed on what's in that binder and how the process works. Making sure that you have passes, like emergency passes for your staff to come and go. Depending on the municipality, there might be curfews where, oh, look at that, Erin. Look at you.
Welcome.
Look at
You
there
jumped
may
ahead.
there may be curfews in certain areas and your team needs access to the property. Their IDs won't match the property. So they need some sort of pass that has their picture on it saying what they do, basically considering them an essential worker. Making sure that you have copies of all of your contracts, not just digital, but also paper, because we all know, when it's storming, you might have a loss of electricity. You may not be able to go ahead and get those things offline. So making sure that you have all those documents in place. When it comes to the construction side of things, I always recommend that go with a construction company that has a really great safety plan. I know most boards are definitely price conscious when it comes to projects, but let me tell you, if you're working with a contractor that gives you a thorough plan, walks you through where they see potential hazards, especially when you have projects going on during a hurricane season. That is something that you want to walk during your pre-construction meeting. Ask these questions. What do you guys do for a hurricane? They might give you a blurb. No, I want to see your plan. Show me your hurricane plan. How do you handle your staff? What is your
Jump in really
mobilization
quick,
like?
Nick,
Go ahead. Yeah.
because you're hitting a great topic. Make sure that that's part of your contract. Before you execute any contract with any GC, we live in South Florida. From June to November, it's hurricane season, and our rainy season starts in April. So making sure you have a plan in your contract where you're not going to be hit with a demobilization fee and a mobilization fee every time they might have to do that is definitely going to help you, and it's going to make you look like a shining star because you thought of it and you're working your plan. You're not planning to work, which is a huge thing.
So question for you guys. Go ahead.
One last thing I want to say is make sure you have a contract for after the hurricane. You want to be someone's first response. You want to be someone right there. You want Erin to be on your property. You want Erin's team to be on your property before you get to your property. Making sure that everything is taken care of, that if there's any flood cuts that need to be done, they're done. If there's any water evacuation that needs to be done, it's done. So making sure you work your plan is definitely better than getting there and planning to work. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Jorge. You bring up a couple good points that I want to touch on. So let's start with the contingency plan. Nikki says hurricane binder. All of the contracts that are in your hurricane binder, all of your vendors should have a plan for hurricane season that is specific to your property and your projects that you have going on. So let's talk concrete restoration because everybody's going through that right now. Nikki, Jorge, in the contract, they would have a demobilization plan, correct? And a remobilization plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it normal to incur fees on both sides for the demobilization and remobilization?
If your contract doesn't state for hurricane purposes a hurricane prep plan, then yes, you will have a mobilization and demobilization fee every time.
Okay. Next question I have for you guys when it comes to large scale projects. If they have scaffolding up, does that need to be demobilized?
Yes.
Depending up to a certain height, it will need to be tied off. Let's say you don't want to see it past the 3rd floor without being tied off. Anything over that, you want to bring it down. If you have swing stages, you could leave the rigging up because that's tied down pretty hard. But the stages, you want to actually bring them all the way down and try and put them away somewhere safe where you could tie them down. Usually in most cases, it'll be by your staging area, by your on-site trailer where you have something heavy to tie down to.
So it's scary. In Fort Myers Beach, I did work with several buildings that did not tie down their swing stages, and the buildings were close together and they destroyed the buildings next door to them. Massive liability with that. Have you guys ever worked with cranes on the tops of buildings during projects?
Yes, we have.
What should be done with the crane?
The crane, you bring it down, and usually the crane is used. Cranes aren't necessarily on site for the entire project. So we would always remove the crane. We'll bring that crane down because that is definitely you know, a safety hazard for sure.
I had a
So-
building in West Palm last year that a crane swung into the side of another building because it was not properly secured.
Yeah, Erin,
And these
I'll also throw in there too that, you know, it might be a good idea. Our experience over on Naples Beach was really unfortunate. We had shipping containers that had windows and doors that the building had already paid for on site. And the storm surge picked the shipping containers up and they acted like floating, you know, boats per se. We had a 30,000 ton, I want to say it was, shipping container, 45-foot shipping container from the port that ended up a mile and a half down the street from where it was because we tied it down and still the storm surge took it away. So, you know, when you talk about your plan, Nikki, some of those other things too are, you know, as property managers, well, who's responsible for the equipment that's on site? And who's responsible to any damage that equipment that was left on site caused? Who's responsible for all of that stuff too?
Well, Ben, that's another class. That's a construction bonds class. And this is why people need to make sure, properties need to make sure that they are working with contractors that are properly insured and bonded for these projects.
Agreed.
100, and I couldn't agree more. So let's talk about what else is in your contingency plan. So we talked about your hurricane binder, your property preparation plan. Next is your property recovery plan. So again, making sure your contracts state the proper things and having contracts in place. So when I think about your property coming to service you post-storm, there's certain contracts that you need right off the bat. And the first is your landscaping contract.
Yes.
I can't get onto your property to help you, and you can't get onto your
Yes.
property if there's debris that is in front of it, like your landscaping. The second factor that I don't think people think about enough, Nikki and George, and I'm sure as former property managers, what about all the sand on the barrier islands? How are you getting sand off of your property? Do you have a contract with a general contractor that has caterpillars to remove it? Because in most of our higher end condo buildings on barrier islands, you have small areas, small parking structures. So there the contractor has to have the right equipment. The other thing I think about when I'm coming back to your property is other debris. Cars was our #1 bane of our existence on the west coast of Florida when we were recovering post-storm. Are you insured for that? In most cases, the answer is going to be no. And you need to have a plan to move the cars so we can get equipment on the property to get that your GCs can get back there to start recovery. Other things I think about when I come back to the properties, you need a contract with a restoration partner like myself. If it's not me, I would love for it to be me for me to help you. But if you don't have a preferred agreement with somebody, then you are literally shooting at the bottom of the barrel, and you're just whoever's out there is going to be helping you recover. And that is such a problem in condo and HOA land because you are a business. And you are a very specific business type. And not every contractor knows how to treat your property the way it should be treated. Not every contractor knows Florida state statute. Not every contractor knows how to deal with a large concrete restoration project that has devastated your property because it wasn't properly secured down. So these are all things that you need to do when vetting your vendors.
And
that
you cannot rely on the city to help you.
Correct.
Please do not rely on the city to help you. And if Erin, if I could add in, this needs to be done by March of that year at the latest. You need to have already had these things in place and locked in by March. If you're waiting to get this done in the midst of hurricane season, you're behind.
Absolutely. And Nikki and George, both being former property managers, some of the most prepared people I've ever met. This is so important. I'm glad that you guys are emphasizing this. So your property recovery plan, let's go back to that. So you have your contractors in place. Now think about your property specific details. What do you need in place? You need a roofing contractor. So that's a maintenance contract, because if you just call a roofer post-storm, they're not coming, right? Do they do temporary roofing solutions? That could be tarping. If you have a flat roof, that could be another methodology, but ask the questions. What else do you need? You need an elevator contract. How
Mhm.
soon are they coming after the storm in an emergency to help you? I cannot tell you how many of my buildings on the west coast of Florida that use the big four elevator companies, they were sitting there for weeks and weeks and weeks on end before they got service. So it's really important that you ask the questions. What is the plan for hurricane season, especially for your high ticket dollar mechanicals, whether that be a cooling tower, all of the common area HVACs, your elevators, sump pumps are something that everybody forgets about. Making sure that those are regularly tested. George, you're laughing because you're like, yep, that's very true. I've got one in my garage, right? I had a flood after, it wasn't even a hurricane. It was a Tuesday afternoon. One of my buildings down in Miami hadn't tested their sump pumps for the year. The garage flooded. It backed into 6 of their elevators, flooded out elevators, electrical panels were fried. It was literally the worst case scenario, and it's just because of lack of maintenance. So it's important that you check on these things on a consistent basis. Your pertinent documents should also be a part of your hurricane binder and a part of your contingency program. So pertinent documents are the things that make your building run. So contact information for all of your staff, contact information for all of your essential workers, your contractors, contact information for the residents, especially the residents that have special needs, are elderly, and the people that are going to be staying in the building, because they need to be understanding that nobody's coming to help them. But when you return, you're going to want to check on those people so you don't deal with biohazardous or life-threatening situations. And then also part of your contingency plan is your staff return to property. It is consisting of the people who are going there first, and then the emails and the communication. I call it the communication tree that follows behind them. Because Nikki, as a property manager, should not be calling all 47 of her staff members. It starts with Nikki, and then it trickles down to everybody after that. So Nikki can start the property recovery process.
And let's not forget about your utilities companies as well. Anything that you may be renting, those contacts should be all listed. It's like a resource list. Anything, like she says, anything that you handle operationally, whether if you have a lifestyle department where you have fruit and water and things like that delivered to the property, any service that you offer to your residents or have on site, they should be added to that list as well.
Beautiful. Let's
The only thing I
move
want to
on.
add, Erin, is your
Absolutely.
prep plan. You have to take the key people on a field trip around your property and show them where everything is. Show them where the valves are. Even if they're on maintenance and they do it every day, you want, as a property manager, you want to get your chief engineer, get your key people, and walk that plan so that when the time comes, they know exactly what they need to do.
Thank you. So let's talk about exterior preparedness. And I want to start with, if you have a large exterior renovation project, so we're talking again, the SIRS, we're talking concrete restoration, painting, roof repairs, maybe you have a large fencing project going on, maybe you're doing the asphalt in the community or the pavers in the driveway. I want to talk about with these properties and how we're going to prepare and how you're going to work with the contractor. Nikki or Jorge, you want to dive in first before I go?
Go ahead, Jorge.
So dealing with the contractor, simple steps, right? You want to make sure that not only you, but your chief engineer has all the contact information. Additionally, your lead front desk. Those are the key 3 people that you want dealing with everybody, making sure that, your chief has everything in the pool deck secured. Any signage for emergency egress or, refreshment stations, anything like that is put up. We talked about gates earlier, making sure you're removing that front gate, making sure that you're not causing extra damage, mitigating as much as possible. If your property has hurricane shutters, don't wait till the last day to put the hurricane shutters up. Make sure that in March, sometime around that time, you go and you make sure that there's no rusted out studs, that all the nuts are going on smoothly. Be proactive. Don't wait for the last minute.
I'm going to jump on
Any-
your shutters real quick. So
Go ahead.
I've had a lot of properties this past year come up with preventative programs for this specific item, because in a lot of situations, especially in our condo buildings, the association is not responsible for the management or maintenance of the shutters, which is a huge obstacle when it comes to planning your exterior preparedness with the team. We've got a lot of snowbirds here. We've got a lot of people that travel all the time that might not be here to close their shutters. So there's two ways to go about this. There has to, and really it's one, and then you can go two ways. You have to have a written plan that goes out to the entire membership on the rules. So maybe it is that their condo owner is 100% responsible for doing it. If they don't do it, then a lot of my buildings have gone down. Their maintenance staff will do it, but a fine is imposed or some sort of payment is required. Other of my condominium buildings have decided that they make that a part of their program. So at 72 hours, at 48 hours, and at 24 hours, they're doing X amount of stacks at a time, and they build that and bake that into their program. But here's the flip side. If you as a condo association decide that it is 100% on the unit owners because they manage and maintain them, what happens when you have two people from Canada that can't get here? They didn't close their shutters. You can't get them closed. And we get water intrusion. It could take out an entire stack of condos underneath them. So it does become your problem as a manager and as a board at that point, which is why there needs to be that plan in place prior to the storm approaching. That plan needs to be in place now, and everybody in the community needs to understand the role that they play, whether it's your internal staff or the residents. Keep going, George.
And George, I'd like
Okay.
to talk about resident communication. Keeping your residents in the know, utilizing whatever platforms you guys have, whether it's a mass communication, whether it's text, whether it's the building's website, but just making sure that you're keeping them in the know as to a hurricane watch, warning, and a hurricane coming, and letting them know what you guys are doing and the status of what you guys are doing to protect their assets. That is so important, and making sure that you know exactly who on your team is going to be responsible for sending out those communications to your residents. Backing up all of your data. We talked about those documents, making sure that you have copies and making sure everything is stored in those systems. I think most management companies have some sort of software where you can upload the documents of your community, as far as your contracts and your emergency procedures, so that way that's always in a safe place. George touched on at the beginning, those drains. Oh, that is so important. Not just with your roof, just your main drains all around the property, making sure that you guys are making sure that those things, and that's something you should be doing on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, making sure that you're checking those drains for blockages, because that can cause flooding and also cause ponding water on your roof. And that's something that you don't want on your roof or in your construction zone. I'm sorry, your construction zones as well, because that can definitely ruin some of your materials that have been put away and stored together. So it's not just the contractor, it's on the communities as well to make sure that those assets are protected as well. We can do our best, but we can, like I said, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink it. That's a saying that I got from my grandmother from back in the day. I hope everybody understands what that means. So it is definitely a team effort from your contractor, from your board, and getting them to buy in. I know there's some boards that feel like, let's just wait. They want to hold out, but you need to also make sure that you are covering your behind by documenting those emails, saving those emails as a PDF file and putting it in a folder when you advise your board on something and they don't agree with it and they don't jump to it. So that way you're covering your behind and also the management company's behind. Right? Because we know they don't always listen to us.
I like that you brought the teamwork up, Nikki. I wanted to touch back on that. So we're talking large scale project construction again. You've got concrete restoration, you've got your roofers up there, you're redoing your elevators, you're painting. It's really, like Nikki said, a group effort. And there's a couple things that you need to look for. How I close up a building when we're talking condo large scale projects is I start on the roof, right? Swing stages come down, debris comes off the roof. I walk roofs for hurricane season on a consistent basis. I find ladders left out there, trash everywhere. I find lightning protection that is not secured down. I find HVACs that don't have hurricane straps on them, or the hurricane straps are in disrepair. I find just random stuff up there that clogs scuppers and drain lines. All the drain stacks should have cages on top of them. So while the storm is in progress, there's no debris going down into the drain itself. Oh my gosh, you guys are gonna laugh, but this is true life. So I have a property in Boca. I won't name them. They're wonderful humans, but I walk their property every year for hurricane season, and they have a storm drain on or a drain on the top of their roof that is two broken plastic drains tied together with zip tied, and then they have another 10-pound weight also zip tied, like it's going to hold it down if we get a category 3 storm. So it's these little things that as a manager and as a chief engineer that I believe in checklists, making sure that you can hold your team accountable. They're initialing a checklist saying, I've checked all the tops of the storm drains, they're in proper working order, and here's my photo that goes up on the cloud. You set it and you forget it. I'm a checklist queen. And if you guys need checklists after this, we have them for days and we could share them with you. Let's go back to exterior preparedness. So we talked about your roof and what needs to be secured up there. Doors. Don't be my building that forgets to lock their door and has the entire community on the roof watching the storm come in, forgets to close the door all the way, and has water intrusion throughout the building. All doors that are not to individual units should be locked all the time. So your utility rooms, your roof doors, your elevator doors, maybe you have a Comcast room or a hot wire room. Those doors all need to remain under lock and key. Talking about unsecured things exterior, I see a lot of communities forget about planters. Planters are one of the biggest things that cause a lot of damage, especially if you do have those massive construction projects going on. They can destroy the materials that are left on site. Trash cans and receptacles. This is a no-brainer, but I have to say it. Please secure your trash cans in all of the big dumpsters you have. They know who they belong to, and they always roll out into the streets. Don't be that building. Also, it could damage the materials that are left on site during a storm. Gutters and downspouts on your roofs. Gutters should be cleaned at least twice a year, in my opinions. And I put it on what I call the June 1 list, once prior to hurricane season and once post hurricane season. That way you have a nice benchmark for each sides of that. And then like Nikki spoke about membership renewal notice reminders. I always believe in storm approaching, tropical storm warning, hurricane warning. And I also believe in a 24, 48, and 72-hour communication prior to a storm actually hitting us directly. And that's really to keep the community informed. Most people in those situations, if you're in an evacuation zone, should be gone at that point. If they're not, we need to advise no one is coming. Property management will not be here to help you. And I use scare tactics because it's real life. You may not have water. You may not have elevators. You may not have electricity. You may not have HVAC. So it's uncomfortable. It's going to be very uncomfortable to live in your unit. And it's truth, right? Do you guys want to add anything on exterior preparedness?
No, I think you covered it all.
Awesome.
I agree. I think you covered you covered it very well, Erin.
Thank you. Interior preparedness from a project management standpoint. So I'm talking, let's go back into Nikki and George again. So from the interior standpoint, let's say we've got weather walls. Can you explain what a weather wall is, how it's installed properly, maybe what the signs and symptoms to look for a bad weather wall? Because I see those all the time.
So I haven't had much experience with weather walls.
Mhm.
From my understanding, it's a barrier curtain that's gonna help, water from intruding. It's gonna help not allowing that wind-driven rain to actually enter, and it's gonna be an overall help. But like I said, I haven't had much experience on that with weather walls, but that is my understanding of it.
So weather walls are really a temporary wall, like you said, to not allow the water intrusion, potential debris to come in. And in a storm situation, it really should be a secure wall. Sometimes we've seen like a temporary, maybe a couple day project where they're just pulling out windows and putting them back in. It could be a plastic weather wall, but for storm purposes, it should be more secured. it really is it's not going to not allow water intrusion in at that point if we're taking a direct hit, but it will prevent debris, hopefully, if it's installed correctly, from entering the unit. And I think it's important that when you're working with contractors, especially those large scale painting and waterproofing and concrete restoration projects, is that you ask the question, if I have windows and doors out, what's the plan for the units that are exposed? And that's part of your contract at the beginning. So
well, you
let's
know
talk.
what, Erin, typically what I see we do, don't quote me on, I can just tell you from what I've seen in the field. Typically what we do is those areas are either closed off with, if a storm is coming, with wood, if they're going to be exposed. That's something that's handled as a our hurricane prep, if we know that there's a storm is coming, at least from on our side.
Correct.
Yes.
100%. I've seen so many times though, Nikki, contractors that have makeshift, I don't even know what they've done with
I know what you mean. They
drywall.
use like those little felt paper type of walls that are not, they're kind of flimsy. And it's just something that you would use if you were working at that moment. You understand what I'm saying? It's not something that you would use to serve as a form of protection if an actual storm was coming. So again, that's something that what we talked about. These are the questions that you need to be asking. Managers should be asking during your interviews with your contractors. I know people skim over, they say, hey, do you have a hurricane plan? They say, yeah. No, make them go into detail as to what the plan looks like. Walk me through what you guys do when a storm is here, when a storm is approaching. What does the process look like? I want to see a sample. Ask them to provide you a sample. And that way, when it comes to things like this, because what your contractor does will then affect the other service providers that you have in place. These are things that, Erin can attest to, where she comes in and she says, well, gosh, like maybe the damage wouldn't have been this bad if the proper weather wall was installed or the proper protection was put in place so that, you wouldn't have so much water intrusion from an area that was totally exposed.
Yeah, real quick. Hey, guys, real quick also, I would also add that if windows and doors are removed for concrete repairs and there's a delay in the lead time in getting them installed or what have you, and there's a storm coming, an engineer on site may be able to consult with how to reinforce these weather walls or board them up to make for a better solution in the event of a quick fix when a catastrophe is about to happen.
Thank you, Ben. I love bringing an engineer to tell me what to do. Their licensing and credentialing is sometimes what we need in these situations to provide the proper solution. And you should be using an engineer on these types of large scale projects. They should be signing off on every single phase and making sure that your contractors are being held accountable, that it is done properly. Another thing that I think a lot of preventative maintenance we can talk about in this area for large scale is the use of other materials. So what do I mean by that? Water mats are a phenomenal thing to have as an association for picking up large amounts of water really quickly, or not allowing more water to intrude because the mat absorbs it. If you guys don't have those, Pig is a brand that I really like. You can get it from your maintenance supply companies, or on a smaller scale, you can order them on Amazon commercially. The other thing that I really like are water dams and flood barriers. So if your property has an underground parking structure and you know that it floods into your first floor elevators, or maybe your elevators are in your parking structure, a water dam can be a really good solution. And there's permanent water dams and structural water dams versus one-time use. The one-time use are much less expensive, but they are single use. And if your garage is prone to flooding, you may want to look for a more permanent solution. And there's some great referrals that we can give you for all of those things. Sandbags are really important. Every single property should have sandbags. And I'm going to say it just because I see it every time that Fort Lauderdale or Miami floods. Sandbags belong on the exterior of your building to prevent the water from coming in. Don't put them on the inside. It just...
It's a mess.
I just had to say it, Nikki, but you've seen it too, being in the
Mhm.
property management world. The only time
Mhm.
you're using sandbags on the interior of a building is to direct water away from something that you don't want it to go to. Sandbags
Mhm.
on the outside. I would even go as far as putting single-use water dams in front of your sandbags. And the single-use ones, what they do is they fill with water like a balloon and make a barrier around it. So it's just another step in prevention if you do have those high-risk areas. And most of those are going to be in your parking structures that lead into some sort of elevator room, because you're trying to prevent the water from getting into your pip, ruining a motor. Elevators are one of the most costly expenses when it comes to hurricane seasons, getting those fixed. Also, talking about elevators and post-storm recovery and response, always have your elevator company come out if any of your components are touched by water. They're the experts and they know what happens. And the most common thing that I see is the cables that are underneath the elevators get hit with water, and those are really expensive and costly to fix. If you have intrusion from above, maybe you have a roof leak that gets into your elevator, the lines that take the elevators up, also super costly to fix, and those are covered under a lot of different insurance policies. So make sure that you're working with those companies to give you a clean bill of health, or hey, I have a problem, I need to file a claim. Let's talk about returning to your property after a storm, post-storm recovery, and let's talk about big picture things. So when you got back onto your property, first thing you're doing, making sure that it's safe. So safety first when you're returning to the property. If you smell gas, do not enter your building. If there's standing water, make sure at bare minimum, rubberized soled shoe. Ladies on this call, I wear my heels too. We should not be returning back to properties in heels. We are there in work boots, rain boots, ready to get through the debris. So proper attire, really, really important. Your communication plan with the first responders back to your property. So if Nikki's the property manager, she's the first one back, and then communicating to her number two. Number two is communicating to number three, and so on and so forth throughout the chain. Make sure you look for down power lines. Electricity smells like almost like a burning. And if you smell something is wrong at the property. Down power lines, do not enter the property, call FPL immediately. Make sure that when you are going back on property, if your landscaping company has not gotten there, that if you are moving debris, that you're at minimum wearing gloves. And if it's a lot of debris, I would use either a stick, a shovel, or something to shake out any potential animals that could be in that debris. One of the most common things that I see, especially in the Tri-County in South Florida, are snakes. And every time I get a garage flood, I always see tons of those. So just be careful. There's a lot of poisonous snakes that we do have here that can end up putting you into the hospital. Before you walk into your building, you're doing an exterior survey of the damages, and you're videoing everything that you potentially can see. So let's talk about when it comes to a large scale project, your contractors are finally getting back onto your property. What are the first things that your contractors should be doing, Nikki or George, in evaluating what they're doing?
Assessing the area, documentation. I am the documentation queen. You got to document. And the thing is, with our documentation, it is time and date stamped. Because again, just how you guys have to cover your petunia, we have to cover our petunia as well. So with the first things first is George, who serves as an account executive, and the designated project manager will go around and assess the situation. Also assess where we have stored our items, all the materials, work on getting our team, again, our safety inspector will definitely pop in. With Empire Works, we have an independent safety inspector on staff. She will determine, at least for the South Florida division, will determine if we can and when we can actually get back to work from a safety standpoint for our staff, and then also for the residents as well.
I'm glad to hear that. So when it comes to that, we let the contractor decide if and when work can begin and the safety assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about the interior survey next. So interior survey, once we say the exterior is safe to enter, interior survey begins. And again, you're starting with your common elements. You're going to your roof and working your way down through the common elements. So you're checking elevator room. Is there debris on the roof? Is there any potential water intrusion points? Making sure that you document anything and everything you see. There is nothing like a video of water intrusion coming from your roof to the penthouse units in a video form, because I guarantee you it's going to be days and weeks until your adjuster from the insurance carrier can get out there, and you're bound by your insurance policy. And insurance policy is best practices. You must mitigate damages within a timely manner. And if you don't, your insurance claim can be denied. It's so important. And mitigation is to stop the bleed and to make sure no secondary damages happen. When we're talking storm damage, that's water, right? Wind-driven rain, any sort of flooding water that could potentially happen. We need to make sure that the source is stopped, a temporary fix is in place. Don't go ripping apart and replacing everything, because the insurance company does need to see the documentation of the loss. But it's important that you take out the building materials that have been included. And it's important for you to understand the two sides of water damage when it comes to post-storm recovery. There's flood water. Flood water is category 3 water. Remember, category 3, that groundwater is rising water. So if we get 24 inches of rain, 36 inches of rain, it touches the ground and then backs up into your building, still category 3 water, even though it came out of the sky, because it's groundwater and it's rising back in. All of that water, all of that building material that's been damaged by that category 3 water has to be removed and replaced and go 2 feet beyond to mitigate any liability that the association has. It's called a flood cut. After the flood cut, the area is cleaned and sanitized. And there are certain building materials that can be saved. Concrete can be saved in most situations. We can save semi-porous tile in some situations, depending on the underlayment of the floor. But the materials that need to be removed are the porous. So you're talking about carpet pad, tack strip, drywall, baseboard, if it's wood, wood or porous materials. Anything that's on top of the unfinished drywall could be paint, wallpaper, decorative plaster finishes. Those things are removed and replaced. Any sort of couches, linens, all replaced. So it's important for you to understand that's how we deal with flood water. Wind-driven rain, on the other hand, if we can get to it in a timely fashion, in some situations it can be dried out. With Hurricane Ian, we did not have the luxury of getting anywhere in a timely fashion because the roads were not safe and the government did not, or the governor did not allow us to go into certain places like the barrier islands. So after about 3 days of wind-driven rain, you're looking at potential mold situations. So if mold is introduced, we remove and replace. If we can dry it out, so that's less than 3 days of the event taking place, then we will try to dry. One last thing I want to talk about.
Erin, let me touch on something really quickly too. With those repairs, we like to label them, and we always advise that you label repairs outside of the type of repairs that Erin is doing. They are to be considered emergency or interim repairs, especially if you are waiting for your insurance company to give you money or pay you out for a claim. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot with the price that you've gotten, 12 months before you actually get the claim, or however long it takes them to do their investigation and pay you out. You want to be able to get those prices, those solid prices, after you've gotten your funds or closer to the time that you get your funds, and make sure that whatever you're doing is an interim or an emergency repair. It should say that on the proposal. And remember those 2 terms. Say it with me. I know you guys can't hear me, but interim, emergency repairs. Remember those 2 terms. They are definitely lifesavers when it comes to putting these things through your insurance carrier, or in case you got to sue them,
Absolutely.
One last thing to touch base on what Nikki was saying. Make sure that whatever contractor you're using, you document the materials that he's replacing the emergency repairs with. Make sure he's using the right gauge steel, the right thickness of drywall, the right millage of paint, because insurance companies will nitpick at all those things and try to, get you where they can. So make sure that you document not only the time and the place that it was completed, but the materials being used as well.
And that should be on the bid before you sign off on the repair.
Yes.
And one last thing I want to talk about is when you are finding these things that are wrong at your property, let's say, and this is worst case scenario because it's real life, right? Let's say your roof, you had a leak and it damaged a fire life safety device like a sprinkler head. Sprinkler head breaks, you save the component that breaks for the adjuster when they arrive. Keep it in your office as a manager. Keep it in, if you're a board member and you don't have an office on site, make sure you keep the components that have failed, no matter if it's a hurricane or an everyday water loss, or maybe you have a construction defect. Anything, any component that fails is actual visible evidence for when they come. And they come on site, because they're not going to see the damage that happened right then and there, or the initial video that you have, or may not have taken because you were or were not on site. So the components can help tell the story when it gets to the claim process. And that's really what we want you to be able to do when you have any sort of loss, hurricane or not, is to be able to tell the story to the insurance carrier, tell the story to the board, tell the story to the ownership of why this bill had to be the way it was and how to justify it. And that's really what we want you to be better prepared for, no matter if it's a large project construction you're doing, or an everyday replacement of a cooling tower. All of those things, being prepared, and documentation. I know that we're getting to the end of the hour here. Does anybody have any questions? We have anything? Where can I get a checklist? I will send you a checklist for a couple of things after this call. I will send you a hurricane checklist that outlines your 72, 24, 48-hour plan for the communication for the property, as well as a water intrusion checklist just for your every day-to-day water losses. It's really good to send to your residents as well. It tells them exactly what to do and how to report it to a management team or the board in the event that they get hit with something. Anyone else have any questions? I think we've got everything in the chat covered. Peggy, I guess we are done with this. Again, please give me a couple days to get all of these CE credits to the state. As soon as I have your certificates of completion, those will be emailed back out to all of my property managers that need the credits. Thank you for having us, Peggy.
Yeah, absolutely. This was excellent, you guys. I'm overwhelmed, honestly. This is the most thorough hurricane preparation class I've ever had. I really, my hat's off to you guys, and thank you for preparing so professionally as well. I just want to say to everyone, we did record it, and you can watch this with your board. To those who haven't joined in today or couldn't for any reason, and hopefully you'll get to refer to it back and forth. You will all be receiving, in addition to the recording, a sponsor sheet of all the sponsors that were on today with all the contact information. And then Erin just committed to sending a checklist. Here are some upcoming classes that I'm going to be having, which I think are very pertinent to today's times. On September 4th, Steve Rappaport, he's an attorney that's going to speak on covenant enforcements. And that's going to be a 1-hour presentation. On September 11th, I have Smith Engineering presenting complete milestone review. So I know that's still pertinent for today. There's a lot of pieces and parts to that. I hope you will definitely join in on that. September 13th, I'm making an announcement for Erin. CAI Gold Coast has a golf tournament, and there are still 5 positions available. So I believe it's just for managers, is what you were saying?
So our golf course, our annual golf is on September 13th. It'll be from 11 a.m. to about 6 p.m. I have 5 positions with business partners, management companies that have requested a manager play with them. So if you were a licensed community association manager, we're playing at Iron Horse, feel free to shoot me an email. It's a day of golf on us for CAI Gold Coast chapter.
Yes, good job.
Thank you.
Well said, former president. Tea time is 11 a.m. is what you had mentioned. Then I've decided to put something together that I hope will be exciting and appreciated. We're going to have a competition, and I've got the 2024 Attorney Olympics coming. It's going to be a series of 3 months in a row, September, October, and November, starting on September 20th. So watch for that flyer and watch for what attorneys that will be participating. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, of course, let me know. On September 26th, Erin also wants to announce that CAI Gold Coast has an event for CAMs only. It's from 12 to 2 and it's supposed to help you grow your career. So that ought to be an exciting event, interesting, maybe a little bit take on your career path. Then I want to also say that, besides the upcoming classes, I am looking for speakers that are on possibly that have a CEU education approved course for more classes starting in October and through January. So thanks again, everyone. It was, again, awesome, very overwhelming. And please stay safe. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everybody.
Peggy. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Bye.